It's the first series recap of the year, ladies and gentlemen, and this one is super interesting. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. The Boston Red Sox just wrapped up their very first series of the 2024 season, splitting a 4-game set in Seattle. And this series had a lot of ups and downs. There were a lot of really positive outcomes, especially from the pitching side of things really early on in this series. There were also some concerns, especially from the hitting side of things in this one as well. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to break it all down. We're going to talk about the highs. We're going to talk about the lows. We're going to talk about everything that went on in this series and what this could possibly indicate about the 2024 season. But before we get into that, just a heads up, we are going to be live tonight on this channel. We're going to stream the 9:40 p.m. game together. So we're going to be live at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, again, right here on this channel, talking Sox, watching the game together. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. If you guys didn't go to the opening day one, now's your chance to see a live and in-person watch party. Again, that is going to be 9:30 p.m. Eastern time on this channel. Don't forget, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure you guys hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Obviously, the title talks about it, the thumbnail shows it. The Red Sox starters were by far and away the best part of this series in Seattle opening the year, and honestly, they were impressive to the point where it was pretty surprising. Brayan Bello, we talked about a little bit in our opening day recap, but just a little refresher for those of you who did not watch that. He was able to go 5 innings, allowing 2 earned runs on 5 hits and striking out 2. It wasn't the best performance in this series or in the world by any means. He was clearly a little bit wild, clearly very full of adrenaline. He was still able to keep people off base by not walking anybody, and he gave the Red Sox a chance to win this game, and that's exactly what you want from a Brayan Bello. So it was a really good start, in my opinion, for Brayan Bello to the season. Nick Pivetta went toe-to-toe with George Kirby, and in my opinion, may have looked a little bit more impressive. And this is the George Kirby that came in 5th in Cy Young last season. Nick Pivetta ended up going 6 innings, allowing just 1 run on a single home run and 3 hits. He did not walk a single batter. That's 2 pitchers in a row in this series that didn't walk anybody to start the game off. And he struck out 10 batters. He looked flat out dominant on the mound. And again, he did go toe-to-toe with one of the top 10, top 5 pitchers in the AL, and he put up a really great fight. Again, if you're just looking at it performance-wise, I think he might have been a little bit better than George Kirby that night. It was really, really impressive what we saw from Nick Pivetta out the gate. Cutter Crawford followed that up with a really solid outing of his own. He did get hit around a little bit in the first, but was able to get out of it without allowing a run, and ended up going 6 innings, allowing 3 hits, striking out 7, and walking just 1 singular batter. If you're paying attention, that's the first time a starter has walked a batter in this entire series. 1 walk in 3 games from a starter is a really great sign. His fastball looked really great, and after a bit of a jam in that first inning, Seattle looked like they could not touch him. Now, Seattle is a bit of a strikeout heavy lineup, but still, really impressive start for Cutter Crawford, and Garrett Whitlock was able to finish this one out with a pretty solid start of his own. He wasn't perfect by any means, a lot of really deep counts. The Seattle was hitting him pretty hard, but he still managed to not walk anyone in 5 innings, allowing just 1 earned run, and Whitlock, he struck out 8 batters. His changeup looked really, really great. Overall, starters for the Red Sox were excellent in this series. They combined for 27 strikeouts, just 1 singular walk, which I think is absolutely wild, right? One of the things that really sunk the Red Sox last year is that it felt like every time a Red Sox starter, or really a Red Sox pitcher in general, let up a leadoff walk, it came around to bite them. We didn't see that too much in this series. They had a combined ERA for starters in this series of just 1.63. That is about as good of a start for the rotations you can ask for a rotation that still to this day, even despite this start, does have a lot of question marks. They surprised a lot of people. Now, the Mariners are, again, pretty publicly a big strikeout lineup. We know that they're going to strike out a lot, so take the strikeouts with a grain of salt, but they are also a pretty potent lineup, right? Julio Rodriguez, JP Crawford, Jorge Polanco, Mitch Haniger, Cal Raleigh are all pretty decent hitters in Major League Baseball, and for the most part, the Red Sox starting pitching was able to completely shut them down. It's super early, I know that. It's hard to come to any one true conclusion about what this rotation is going to look like going forward over the next couple of months, but there are some really encouraging signs here. I think one thing that was super interesting to me about this series that was pointed out a couple of times on the broadcast, it was the lack of fastballs. They were really focusing on off-speed pitches. They were really sort of honing in on their best pitch, right? Specifically Bayo and Whitlock, I don't even think they threw any four-seam fastballs their entire starts. One of the things we talked about when Andrew Bailey first got hired was the fact that one of his philosophies is, hey, we're going to take a look at what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and we're just going to hammer the pitches that work best for you. Whitlock was that changeup, which he used a majority of the time in his start. Bayo was his sinker, which he used a majority of the time in his start. Cutter was obviously still using that fastball because that is his strongest pitch, but if this is simply what it's going to take to get these guys to the next step that we've been waiting for them to get to over the last couple of years, that's going to be really, really awesome, and Andrew Bailey's going to look like an absolute genius. Again, it's really hard to come up to any sort of conclusion about the first series, but you can't help but be a little bit optimistic about what this rotation could look like. I don't know how much of a test the Oakland Athletics or the Los Angeles Angels are going to be, but once we get home and start playing Baltimore, Toronto, Minnesota, it's going to be a bit more of a challenge, and we're going to really see what they look like. But again, you can't help but be at least a little bit encouraged from this Red Sox starting pitching, and it's something that was super, super exciting to see in this series. Now, the other part of the pitching is obviously the bullpen, and the bullpen, outside of one singular guy, Joely Rodriguez, who we did make a video about already on this channel if you want to check that out. Outside of him, the bullpen was just as dominant. You saw guys like Isaiah Campbell and Greg Weissert, who were brand new to this team, absolutely make a statement in this series. Isaiah Campbell looked pretty unhittable. He was throwing absolute frisbees. Greg Weissert was in a really similar boat where he was throwing a lot of really great pitches and he was pretty dominant. Even a guy like Justin Slayton, who did end up giving up the winning run in the bottom of the 10th inning in the third game, but that was a bit of a tough spot for him to make his major league debut. When you saw him in the game after and he got a clean inning, he looked great as well. I think there was some questioning here, and rightfully so, of Alex Cora's bullpen management in this series. You guys made that vocally clear in my video about Joely Rodriguez, and I'm not going to argue with you, but I am going to say it is pretty early on to make any declarations about Alex Cora's bullpen managing in 2024. Again, we're still only 4 games into a 162-game season. Chris Martin looks like he picked up right where he left off last year. He was absolutely slicing and dicing everybody. My hope is that Kenley Jansen can remain healthy, because if they were to have Kenley Jansen in this series fully healthy and ready to go every game, you're probably coming out of here with a series win at the bare minimum. But overall, I mean, when you look at the pitching staff as a whole, again, the starters you can't help but be encouraged by, and the bullpen looked really, really great in a small sample size. The offense may have been a little bit of a different story. In 2 of the 4 games, the Red Sox offense looked really solid. They looked like they were playing station-to-station baseball. They got good hits when they needed to. They were wreaking havoc on the base pass, but in the other 2 games, they were just flat out non-existent. It was a really Jekyll and Hyde start for the Red Sox offense. There were some positives, though. The big positive, in my opinion, was Tyler O'Neill. He made history, hitting a home run in the first game, and then he had another home run in the series finale. He looked absolutely great at the plate. He looks locked in and ready to go. We've talked about it already, but he really has the opportunity to be this team's X factor. He's athletic, he has so much power, and he looks great defensively. He could be a really big impact player for the Boston Red Sox. Rafael Devers must just give this team a full contact boost or something when he's in the lineup, because the only 2 games he played in this series were the games that the Red Sox won and the games that the Red Sox showed up offensively. He was a big part of that. He had a home run and a double in the first game and was hitting absolute rockets that did get robbed in the last game, but he ended up with a single in there as well. It's really interesting to me just how much Rafael Devers changes this Red Sox lineup. It's a lot to do with the Red Sox outside of that having a really slow start. And Manuel Valdez hit an absolute rocket home run in the finale. Outside of that, not a ton of production, but hey, I'm taking him hitting a deciding home run all days of the week. I'll be really interested to see if he can make a case to be the everyday second baseman over over the next coming weeks. He has the opportunity to do this as he's going to get a lot of playing time if that bat can play at the major league level, and he looks like he looked defensively, which is, I would say, bare minimum, right? He was making the plays that he needed to make. He's not going to make the spectacular plays, and we saw that unfold in the opener, but if he makes the regular plays and he hits the way we need him to hit, I think he might have an opportunity to win a starting job here. We'll see how that plays out. Ceddanne Rafaela was absolutely fantastic. Honestly, probably your most consistent hitter in this series. He had a triple, a double. He's hitting .333 on the series and the year so far. He was making Superman level catches on the field, and he's just flat out exciting to watch right now. In my opinion, this is a guy that needs to be in the lineup every single day as of right now, at least until teams start to figure out how to pitch to him and he starts going through his struggles. But there were some really slow starts for players as well. Wilyer Abreu did end the series fairly solidly, but he just looks flat out lost at the plate in this series. Basically the same thing with Story. He also got hot at the end here, but there was a lot of swing and miss in his game over the first couple of games. Tristan Casas only had one hit in this series. Masataka Yoshida struck out 3 or 4 times in a single game, which I don't even think happened at all last year outside of maybe 1 or 2 games in the entire season, right? So the rest of the Red Sox offense, not exactly fantastic. I mean, you were essentially carried by a handful of players while the rest of the team had a really tough time really getting it going, at least early on in this year. Now, I will say it is slightly concerning to see the offense start off this slow, but I'm not worried about it yet. I think there's too much talent in this lineup to stay this quiet for this long. We know that Tristan Casas is a slow starter. He's always been a slow starter throughout his entire minor league career. He was very similar last year. Wilyer Abreu might not be ready to be an everyday major league player. I'm hoping Trevor Story just needs a little bit of time too. He was again getting around on baseballs towards the end here. Maybe this is where he sort of gets back in, locks back in, but you're going to need these guys, right? You're going to need everyone else in the lineup outside of Rafi, Ceddanne, and Tyler O'Neill to produce in order to win games. Like I said when we were talking about the pitching, had the offense actually been able to produce against some of these pitchers, you're probably walking out of here bare minimum winning 3 out of 4 of these games with the opportunity, because of what the starters did, to have swept this series. I'm going to give it a month or 2 before we actually get concerned about what this offense could look like, but it definitely wasn't the best start in the world. I will say, in all fairness to the offense here, they were facing what many consider to be the best starting rotation in the entire American League. Some people even consider them the best rotation in all Major League Baseball. Again, you're facing guys like Luis Castillo, who you did get to, George Kirby, who was a top 5 Cy Young vote getter last year, Logan Gilbert and Brian Wu, who are some of the most up-and-coming pitchers in the entire sport, right? It wasn't like you were facing scrubs, but still you want to see more offense, and it is frustrating that you could have come out of this series with a win. Overall, I think there's 2 ways to take a look at this series. The first way is to say, yeah, they probably should have won more, right? And the other way is to look at it and say, well, it was the first series of the year, and there are some encouraging signs. I am a bit down the middle on this one. I'm frustrated that the Red Sox couldn't make a statement that they should have been able to make out of the gate, especially in those middle 2 games. They just sort of fell apart, which isn't a fantastic sign, but I am encouraged about what we saw, especially from the starting pitching side of things, which gives me a lot of hope as to what they could actually be, because I do think the Red Sox offense will come around. We're going to have to wait and see on that one. And overall, in my opinion, it's tough to sit here and make any declarations about the 2024 Red Sox based off of just 4 games, right? A lot of things can change. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say, yeah, they could have won all 4 games, but I'm encouraged about what they saw, and I'm curious to see what they look like when they face bad teams that they should win against, like the A's and the Angels. This was a problem last year for the Red Sox, where when they faced these teams, they did have sometimes a problem trying to win these games. If they can win games that they're supposed to win, they're going to be in a lot better spot, and I think going up against the Seattle Mariners, who are a heavy playoff favorite, and splitting a series really isn't the worst outcome in the world, and I will take that every single day. But That's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think? Did you like this series? Did you not like this series? Were there things that you loved? Were there things that you hated? Let me know what you thought of the Red Sox first series of the 2024 season and what you think it could mean about the entire season as a whole. Let me know all your thoughts on the latest series in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.